There we go. Dennis Brooks. Thank you for joining me in the Horses Advocate podcast. I'm Doc T. That's Dennis Brooks.
I'm in a bar, not a barn at the moment.
We'll start with B. Let's not get any more complicated than that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I got my whiskey right here. It's in this big jug.
Ooh, good idea.
Horse Advocate.
I'm having Mexican Coca-Cola because it's made with real sugar instead of whatever they put in American sugar. You can get it at Home Depot.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why. I don't understand.
Melissa was with me working in Long Island last week, and there's this restaurant. It's an Italian restaurant with pizza and everything, but it's all run by Mexicans and it's all in Spanish. And then, of course, had Mexican Coca-Cola, which she grabbed the bottle of. Had to get a bottle opener for. It's great stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know, but it's everybody appreciates it, but it's actually a political decision down there because it supports their sugarcane industry, which I didn't really know. And then the second thing is that anybody listening, Mexico has the highest consumption of Coca-Cola per person in the world. Now, don't ask me why I know that. I can't remember what I did yesterday, but I can remember that. Actually, I was mowing yesterday. But
I remember my mom told me that her parents were invited to buy Coca-Cola stock when it had cocaine in it.
Yeah. I have a book somewhere that actually gives you the dates on that. It was a long time ago, though, but it actually did for a while. And I think those in the days it was more of a syrup that it didn't have the carbonation yet or whatever. But
I don't know, but you lined up the soda fountains and you got it.
Yeah, really.
Well, I would probably own a university if my parents had decided to do that. Grandparents.
God, yeah. Now we're going to talk about universities, aren't we, for a little bit?
Well, I got to tell you, this is open. I mean, I want to do the obligatory introduction here, and don't roll your eyes. You know,
I'll modify it as necessary. Feel free.
All right. Well, Dr. Dennis Brooks, if you ask anybody anywhere anything about horse eyes, his name will come up. I don't know how else to say it. I could say when you graduated, your diplomat of the College of Ophthalmologists and on. But I'll tell you what, I only know two ophthalmologists, and the other one you know pretty well, Ann Dwyer.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys are the nicest people in the world. And I don't know if you have to be a nice person to be an eye doctor or what, but simply put, you guys are the best. And you have this incredible legacy of so many people that you've taught who are now in institutions worldwide teaching other people. And you're passing on what you've learned through the decades. So starting off with just that little lens and ophthalmoscope to now you have CAT scans, MRIs, ultrasound. And what are you doing now? There's something here I read. This is blowing my mind. You take vitamin B2, riboflavin, and UV light and cross-link and get melting ulcers to behave. It's just like, this is like...
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, I mean, that's actually low technology, but you can get all that equipment at Amazon.com.
Delivered to your door.
Actually, I'm serious, or eBay. But no, thank you for the introduction. Usually people, I always think this is funny, Geoff, because people will say, well, they introduce me and they say, oh, you wrote 170 papers or whatever.
Yeah, blah, blah,
but the thing is what they don't say is, what they should say is, you wrote 170 papers, but did you really like all of them? And no, there was four of those 170 I wish I had not published, because I found out I was wrong. Or I was over interpreting my data. So I was young and I thought I had it, and the reviewer said, no, it's something else. And I badgered the reviewer, which is all anonymous. So you can imagine I was pretty, I don't know what I was. I was writing anyway. There's 4 papers I wish I hadn't written. And there's sure some lectures that I gave that people didn't hear what I said. because I know I didn't say that. And, yeah,
Interpretations.
Yeah, but you know, the funny thing to me is what other people's opinions of me or how they interpret how I've lived my life. And there was a guy named Tim Knotts, who's one of the best horse eye vets in the world, and he's in the UK, and he has 2 young teenage boys. And so I was at a meeting, and I think in the UK, and Tim had brought his boys. And so I guess at some point in the meeting, I was on the other side of the room, and Tim pointed, his sons were with him, and he pointed across the room, told them that's Dennis Brooks, and he's one of the original. He's one of the first equine ophthalmologists. And yeah, exactly. And then Tim said, they said, oh, he's the OG. And then Tim tells me later, my boy said, you're the OG. And I had to Google OG. I was the original gangster. OG, which is a hip hop term, I think. And I thought, well, okay, I'm not the original, I'm not the OG, but I'm close. I'm right next to, Bill Rabune at Cornell was, I think, the first. Actually, then there's old timers that go way back that from European, French, and German guys, veterinarians that were doing horse ophthalmology, because cavalry veterinarians were busy back in the old days, and cavalry horses were worth more than the soldiers. Not politically correct, I suppose, but it's really the truth. So they got pretty good care. But and they had they wrote some neat books about equine ophthalmology way back when all they had was a light and their eyes
and a magnifying glass, maybe.
And yeah, exactly. I mean, and their fingers, and the sense of touch. So I
want you to take a second, and you already have taken it, but just to wrap that up in a bow. Whoever we are, we are always standing on the shoulders of someone before us. And no matter what somebody thinks of our abilities, you being the father, the OG, no, you're not the original.
No.
But you'll take it now, and you hope to give that away to somebody. You don't want to keep it.
No, but one of the other things, though, that I found in my career, which is 40 some years now, 42 years. And I wanted to surround myself with good people. And actually, Geoff, I think one of the things I'm best at, as I found out over time, one of the best things I was best at was identifying good students or good veterinarians to work with, because they'll make you better. And I never wanted to work by myself, because I learned pretty early, I guess, in life that for me, it was easier to get better, easier to improve if I surrounded myself with good people, and that's what I did. And that seemed to be. I also learned that was a fairly unique way to think, because I knew other people who they were intimidated by other smart people, by smart students, and didn't want to have anything to do with them. And me, like, I hired these good people and turned them loose and gave them a lot of freedom, and I sometimes got the credit for what they did and sometimes the blame, but that's the price you pay. And I trained some really good people, or at least, but Geoff, those people made me better than I ever would have been had I worked by myself.
No doubt.
And so it's like that. Even now, it's like the people I work with now, and I'm on the sunset side of my career, I guess, in some ways, which I'm okay with. But it's like I still go in to work every day, or when I go to work, and I want to learn something new every day. And if I don't, and you always do, but I mean, if I don't, then it wasn't as good of a day as it could have been or should have been.
Learn it.
And
learn it.
You and I had absolutely. Even you and I had a conversation last time you were here, when you were here working at my place, and I told you that cases, as a clinician, that cases run in cycles, I guess, for lack of a better word, and then they end, and then you have to start a new one. And what I mean by that is, and you know already what I mean, but what I mean by that cycle is that you see these cases. For me, it's horses with eye problems, and I see these case after case, and most of them get better, or at the very least, we resolve them in a way that's positive for the horse and the horse's owner. I mean, but then that cycle ends, and so for me, on March 30th of this year, 2022, that cycle ended. And what I mean is, if you do a procedure, doesn't matter what it is, surgery, not surgery, if you do a procedure that has a 90% success rate, that means there's a 10% of those horse eyes don't get better. Well, if you do enough procedures that have 90%, eventually you run into one of the 10%, which is really cruel.
Yep.
And devastating, and it makes you so sad. Anyway, March 30th, I had 3 of those in one day. And I was crushed. And I'm, now it's, what is it, June something, 25th. I mean, I'm better, right? Because, time goes on, you get better, but it's like, and one or two of the cases are still ongoing, and you don't get over these kind of things, I mean, I don't. And,
you do, because when you've got 4 decades doing this, and every morning you wake up, at least I do, every morning I wake up, I ask myself, is this the day when something's going to go wrong? And I know that's not the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to wake up positive, come out of bed, jump on 2 feet, run to wherever you're going. But the more you hang around in life, the more you realize that percentages do catch up. Now, you said 90%, but 90% could be, 990,000 out of it, right. Yeah. So the point is, that it's still a percentage. And when that comes, hopefully you've got the guts to stand up to it and say, okay, I've met my match. Am I going to fold, or am I going to do what it takes and make it right? Even if the case goes south and is devastating to owners and everything, and the worst case can happen, that wind that comes in and knocks you and tries to knock you off your feet, you're better able to stand up in it because you got those 9,999 that did work.
Yeah. No, and I agree with you. The problem is, for me, is I need to know why. Why did this not go bad? Why did this go bad? What and it's like, and sometimes you don't find out. You never figure it out. And that drives me nuts.
Not only does it drive you nuts, but you sit back in the quiet of your bar there.
Ooh, absolutely.
Not going back and saying, wait a minute, I'm the OG, original gangsta. There's nobody, the shoulders I was standing on, they're dead and gone. Now it's me. There's no one to pass the buck to. I have to come up with the answer. And here's all my articles with the answers that I thought were there. And,
Yeah. No, I know. And I agree with that. I mean, there are surely people that I talk to, but I'm still the one that dwells on it.
Yeah.
Sometimes in the middle of the night, we were talking about sleeping before we turned the switch on here. It's like, I mean, I'll wake up in the night, and sometimes I've got the answer, to whatever the issue with it is. And it actually happened in one of these cases. I woke up in the middle of the night and I had it. But that doesn't always happen. Sometimes you never find out. And I don't know. It's like, I never dwell on my successes. I only dwell on my failures. I don't know if that's a depressive personality. I refuse to believe that's it. It's just like, but that's how I deal with failure.
Constant, never-ending improvement, Dennis.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't know whether it's naivety or not, Geoff, but it's like, I think I can get them all better.
No,
well, that you can't, but I'm going to approach it with like, okay, what do I need to know to help?
Yeah, well, honestly,
what data is missing?
You have to. You can't get to where you are now without constantly trying to set the bar higher than your abilities, because otherwise you don't grow. But I find that most people set their bars way too low. They need an expectation. And I wanted to kind of take what you've learned and look at the new graduates. I mean, you said you surrounded yourself with people that built you up, helped you grow and think. But there's a lot of equine practitioners out there who are alone. They're alone. They don't have any to turn to. They go to continuing education. They listen to, I'm going to listen to Dennis Brooks. He's giving an hour and a half lecture on thus and that. So, and they listen to it, but halfway through they're drifting. But I've got this case over here and the car needs fixing and the kids are in the background. And to become a mentor is so important. And yet the mentorships aren't there, or the mentees don't know that they can mentor. They don't know they could pick up the phone and say, Dr. Brooks, I'm really having trouble here. And you have to dig deep and say, how many times do I have to go over what a corneal ulcer is and what you have to do? I mean, it's so freaking, I mean, even I know that, right? But they need that support. And you're going to give 90% and only get 10%, or maybe you give 99% now and only get 1% back at this stage of your life. But I wake up every morning hoping that 1% comes my way from a horse or from a person who says, have you ever thought of it this way? And bam, I just like, wow, why didn't I think of it that way?
The only reason I ever did lectures seriously was, or Zoom meetings now or whatever, was because I have questions that I have not been able to answer, clinical questions I have not been able to answer. Right. If I go out and meet enough veterinarians, one of those people has the answer to one of those questions. Yeah, now I know this is the nuttiest thing ever, but it's really the truth. And twice this week, I quote unquote, met a veterinarian who's a single person, single practitioner, just like you just said, one in Kentucky and one in South Africa. And I gave him my phone number and I said, here's my cell phone number here. I said, you call me. If you run into something. Why I said that? One, it's partly my job, but it's also like they may have the answer to one of those. It's purely selfish. I'm not getting any money for this. I refuse to charge. But it's like, just like, you need somebody, you give me a call, but you send me a picture, and I give them 2 or 3 things they need to do. Send me a picture, do a dazzle reflex, which drives me nuts, and that nobody knows, and it's like, and a few other things, and then I won't hear from them for a while. Sometimes never. Yeah. But then sometimes a year, 2 years, 3 years later, I get the call. Said, you said I could call. I said, yeah, sure. What's up? Yeah. And then we work it through it. And I usually learn something from their experiences. And I hope they learn something because they're usually teaching me. It's it's just purely selfish. I want to learn everything, Geoff. Yes, but you do that. I don't want to fail. I don't want to fail. I don't want to do any more nucleations in my life. See, that to me, that's failure. Yeah. See, you lose a molar or a premolar, but it's like, I don't want to do, horses have 2 eyes, thanks God, I think one's a spare, but still it's nice. Some polo people think that polo people want them to have cutting horse people need 2 eyes. But it's amazing to me that veterinarians are such good people, usually
at their base core.
I've rarely met a bad. They exist, but I mean, not very often. I run into them.
As a veterinarian, they're good. As a person, they falter. I think their biggest concern is that they're scared. They're afraid of failure. You and I aren't afraid of failure. Bring it on, because we know we're going to learn from that. But I think a lot of people are afraid. And I'll give you a great example of a mentor who I never thanked until decades later. There is a veterinarian who you probably have heard of if you haven't met, Dr. John Steele. He just passed away at 92 practicing. He owned a huge equine practice all over the East Coast. He had multiple vets in his practice. And at 90 something or other, he'd be sitting on a stool in a barn down here in Florida. And I'd come around the corner. He'd look up, see me. He says, "Hey, Geoff, how are you?" The man's brain was so sharp. But I'll never forget the days, my first year out of vet practice, and this horse stepped in a frozen hoof hole in the mud and snapped the pastern. And the owner, and it was her stallion, she calls me up and she says, what do I do? I'm like, well, we're going to have to put screws and plates and send to Cornell and all this other stuff. She says, stop. We're calling Dr. Steele. And she had his number and called, just like you're giving your number out to people.
Yeah.
And she said, hold on, here he is, and gave him to me. And I talked to him. He says, you know how to put a cast on? I said, yeah, we're taught. He said, simple, just put the cast on, make sure it's on good, and I guarantee that horse is going to walk off. And he gave me some pointers on how to do it all the way through. And I said, thank you. That gave me the courage to anesthetize that horse and to put the cast on that horse and recover without anesthesia. And the horse walked on and lived the rest of its life, no problem. That's what a mentor does. And that's what you're doing. And God bless people like you who are willing to give your phone number out and say, hey, there's somebody with less experience just needing that encouragement. You don't have to go to South Africa to do that. You just say it's possible. So it's a great feeling, isn't it? Both ends, to receive and to give.
Yeah, I like, this virus thing has, reduced my ability to meet people. And in the past couple of weeks, I gotta change the subject slightly. Sorry, but this is what I do. You're gonna suffer through this. This is random thoughts. Anyway, because I was thinking about this all day. So I was flying to Texas at the beginning of the month, and I had gotten a letter from Delta Airlines that I had reached the 2 million mile status. I thought, 2 million miles flying. So, so I'm sitting there on the airplane. Seriously, I'm on the airplane, and it says I'm going 500 miles an hour or whatever. So I thought, this is how my mind works. It's like, well, if I've been going 2 million miles at 500 miles an hour, how many days, weeks, hours have I been on a plane in my life? And it was almost 5 months.
Oh my gosh.
But that's just flying time. That's not waiting in airports or driving. 2 airports are waiting, blah, blah, blah. No. And it's like 5, and that's a ridiculous amount of time. So the reason I'm bringing this up is people. I probably won't I'm not not willing to fly much anymore in my life. 5 months is not that much, but it's a terrible. Yes, it is. And so I have a lot of friends in Australia and New Zealand. I'll probably never get there because I just, this. I just recently bought a farm.
Your 100-acre woods.
It's a functioning farm, but for me, it's a mountain bike track. So, exactly. And she's the main thing. I wouldn't own it without her. But it's like I don't want to go anywhere anymore. So it's nice to have the technology and the Zoom and that kind of stuff. But I stopped going to Europe to do CE and stuff. And I have a lot of European friends and I'd like to meet new ones. It's an addiction. Because why? Because somebody knows the answer to some question I have. And if I don't go there, then I'm doing away with that potential source of knowledge.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. So and that's how I feel now. I'll probably go again, but it's like right now, it's like, I don't want to go anywhere. So I 5 months of my life sitting on an airplane, 2 million miles, that's enough.
Yep.
That's enough. You know what they give you? $350 to buy it to put onto another ticket. Like, okay, I'll take it. I'm cheap. I'll take the money, but it's like, oh, well, but I just, but what you and I realize that there's some veterinarians that aren't happy. And it's a mystery to me. My wife, especially, she's happy, but I mean,
who's a veterinarian?
Of course. Who else do you meet? But she's very concerned about the high suicide rate in veterinarians. It's even higher in women vets, and compared to the national average, or anyway. And so it's like, I it took me a long time to figure out what my job is.
Huh.
And a long time. And the way I look at my job is to help people that own horses with serious eye problems.
Yep.
My job is to help people.
Yes.
That own horses. And I think some of the sadness that comes with the suicide is because some people, some of the kids don't understand what the job is going to be.
Yeah.
And the people, it's a people business.
Yes.
And if you're not, and I'm real shy. I'm probably, Geoff, and I'm serious, I'm probably the shyest person you know. I put on an act. This is an act. It's a part of my personality.
Yeah.
But I just, before now, today, I was sitting on a tractor out mowing, and I was okay with that.
You're comfortable being alone.
Yeah. And I wasn't always either, but it's like, as I got older, it's like, okay, I appreciate those moments because I spend a lot of time with these owners of these horses, trying to educate them because they have expectations. And part of my job is to get them to understand what I think is going to happen.
Right. Sometimes
I'm right. Sometimes you do the same thing. I mean, and it's not always easy because they expect A, B, or C, and sometimes they're going to get Q, and
over a longer period of time too.
Oh yeah, right, and then I'm dealing with blindness, and people. It's one of the greatest fears that human beings have. Health fears is losing your sight. That's probably why my specialty exists at all, because people translate that fear. Gallup did a poll a number of years ago, and people are afraid of cancer and HIV, but blindness is in the top 5 things that people are afraid of. And of course they are. I'm afraid. I'm going to the ophthalmologist Tuesday. I've had a retinal problem in my left eye, and I'm a little I'm okay, but I'm a little nervous. And he's a personal friend of mine. He chastises me when I'm not a good patient. When compliance is. I mean, I've known this guy for a long time. He's the best retina guy in the world. Yeah, I mean, and it's like that brings up another thing too, Geoff. Is I can't take care of my own animals.
Yeah.
But I know who the best veterinarians are, so they get good care. But it's not for me. I mean, I'll overreact. Whatever's bad, they're going blind or they've got cancer. Of course they don't or whatever. But it's like I'm very concerned with veterinarians. Not too worried about this subject. And I've been really blessed with traveling the world, and I met veterinarians in many different countries, and they're all the best. Doesn't matter whether it's a third world country or a second world country or first, whatever. It's like people are always trying to do their best. I was in India a few years ago.
Or they're afraid of failure.
Absolutely. They don't know what the best is. And people would take rickety buses for several days to come and see me. And it's like
humbling.
Yeah. I hope I help them.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big technologist, in a sense, so I don't overwhelm people with, well, you need to have a CAT scan or blah, blah, blah. You need to have a pen light.
Yeah.
Everybody can find a light.
Yep.
Start with that, and we'll worry about CAT scans later.
Grab your phone. Turn the light on.
Yeah. There's a that's what Apple put that light on, is to do ophthalmologic exams. I think that's one of the things they didn't think of is Apple and Samsung. Is like, what the potential for? I mean, these things made this. Yeah. This is the best thing ever for looking at horse eyes.
Yeah.
Because everybody's carrying one.
Yeah.
And the older ones are better than these new ones. So you don't necessarily have to upgrade. And
I like that magnifying feature.
Oh yeah.
So you say back and zoom in. You don't have to get right up the horse.
That's right. Yeah. And then so you get it's exciting. But no, I just I don't know what's going on with the profession in that sense. I don't know if we're getting better at helping these kids understand what profession they've got into, I mean, I don't know about you. Well, you had experience with the profession before you went to school. I did not. And which I was unusual. Maybe I was completely the exception as to why they even let me in the first time I applied, but they did. My grades were really high, and that's probably why. But it's like, I think even in the I started vet school in 76 and got done in 80, and in 76 they really wanted you to make sure you had experience with the profession. Probably, I'm guessing, to partly so people would understand what they're getting into, so they're not disappointed later, which makes sense. And now they're kind of opening up the door, trying to get people to come and apply, and that's great. But it's like, maybe you should. It's a people business. Veterinary medicine's about people. I wish it was about animals more.
Yeah. My famous line is, I've never, ever, ever had a horse write me a check. No. And you're helping people through their horses. So, I mean, in alignment, absolutely. But people fail at that. I think the veterinarians from where we came from were more people oriented. Our ability to communicate, we were able to pick up a phone, we were able to talk to people eyeball to eyeball. I find that I joke with new graduates. I say, let me see if I got this right. Your first year spent learning how to say, let's draw blood for every situation. And your second,
I think you're right.
And your second year spent learning how to turn the machine on. And then all of a sudden, I remember going into vet school knowing that I was going to learn more in 1 year than my predecessors learned in 4 years. Well, now they're learning 20 times more than we did.
Yeah.
They're overwhelmed. They can't think. And I just heard this from a client. They said the biggest problem with these vets is they come in and tell me the 100 different things that could be going wrong, and they focus on the worst things. Yeah. And your horse.
That's how they're taught.
Yeah. I think there needs to be a fundamental change, and I think it comes through a mentorship. I joke sometimes that I could teach somebody how to be a really good quality equine veterinarian if they just had 2 weeks with me. They would know everything they need. I mean, look at eyes, corneal ulcer, uveitis.
And uveitis, there you go.
Something stuck inside the eye.
Anything else, look it up in a book or Google it. If they need you find out if they have an ulcer, find my name. But but I think change is coming, and this is only a thought that I've recently begun to think is possible. And at first I thought it was change is coming in veterinary education. It's already here. It's the universities don't know it yet. As these new vet schools have started, because we're starting another. There were the old-time vet schools that started back in the 50s and 60s, and then there was the resurgence around 1970, 75, when Florida started, and Georgia and Tennessee and Louisiana State, and now though there was a hiatus, and now there's new schools.
Long Island,
which are
Arizona.
Arizona, Tennessee's Lincoln Memorial, and there's several others. We're not going to. Southern California, isn't there another one in Southern California? The Western College or Western University. Okay. Anyway, and there's more on the way. Good or bad or ugly, they're coming. And they didn't build a hospital for them.
Oh,
they're going to distribute. The kids are going to get their clinical education from practitioners. The practitioners get a fee for doing this. And at first I thought this was complete garbage. But now I started talking to some of the people and got to meet some of the people. I spent some time at Lincoln Memorial teaching the students in their first couple of years. And the students are like as good as they ever have been, maybe better in some ways. They're enthused, whatever. And that's a great thing. They're knowledgeable. But where are they going to get their clinical training? Well, they're going to get it from practitioners. And I think that is going to work. And, and at least I hope. And I'm not so sure what's in it for the practitioners other than, they make a few dollars, but at the same time, they're going to have a lot of people run around their hospital that have high expectations. But I guess this is happening enough. These schools see this as a way to produce new veterinarians. And at first I thought it was not going to be a good idea. Now I'm starting to change my mind that it could actually work. And we'll see, won't we, as to whether this happens or not. But it's just like the possibilities are there that they're going to get a down-to-earth education in these practices, not all the bells and whistle. Every cat or dog or horse has to have a CAT scan or an MRI, or that you have to use your, for ophthalmology, you have to look. As silly as it sounds, that's what people don't do. They don't look. Well, I mean, they're looking.
Yes, but they're not.
It's like they're not seeing anything,
right?
Because their knowledge is weak. You see what you know. You see what you know, and the more you know, the more you're going to see as far as eyes go. And so, if you don't know much, then you're not going to learn much. You're not going to see much either, or you're going to struggle, and then you're not going to do real good with your cases. The whole idea is to get the cases better. And I say, I say to students, you want to get the case, you want to get the cases better? Oh yeah. You want them to see? Yeah. Blindness is a terrible thing. Oh yeah. I hate blindness too. Okay. Well, then here's what you need to know. It's just what you said. You do the same thing on eye exam every time.
Yep.
It doesn't take long to examine an eye.
Right.
As long as you're mentally prepared to do it. And if you are, and it's not rocket, if I can do it, anybody can.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just a dumb vet from Western Illinois. That's what I tell people. Which I'm proud of being from Western Illinois. But
to examine
practical
the eye,
people.
Yes, very practical Midwesterner.
Yeah.
You can examine, but if you aren't seeing, what's the exam worth?
It's not worth nothing. Yeah, and I don't have my wallet. Did when I go out and lecture, I'll sometimes, I don't know. I hope I'm being profound, but I'm just being silly. But I think at one lecture somewhere, I was talking about what's in my wallet. What do you carry in your wallet?
Yeah.
And so I said, I carry fluorescein strips in my wallet just to make sure I've got one. Some people have other things in their wallets besides boys will carry certain things in their wallets just in case. But me, I've got fluorescein strips. So several years later, somebody heard me. Several years later, I'm in a lecture and a veterinarian in the back row or way in the back goes, Dr. Brooks, do you really have fluorescein strips in your wallet? And I pulled out my wallet. There it was, and the crowd roars with laughter. I said, yeah, I mean, I meant it.
Yeah.
You're looking at a horse eye, shine a light at it, and stain it.
Yep.
At some point, and stain it with fluoresceint dye, and then you've done your job. And then if it's beyond that, then you start. You go to plan C.
Yes.
And D. Say, try this medicine. I'll be back.
Yeah.
But you gotta there's only horses. There's only 2 eye diseases. There's corneal ulcers, and there's uveitis, and there's everything else. So there's 3 eye diseases. Sorry, I miscounted 3. Corneal ulcers, uveitis, and everything else. So how much? That's all you have to know.
Yeah. Well,
and
then it's surgical or it's non-surgical.
There you go. Yeah, and there was a time they were not surgical. So now we've improved. Maybe Jim Smith, who's unfortunately passed, it was quite a legendary veterinarian and at Haggard's in Lexington, told me, and Jim's gone, so I can't. Jim said he met the first veterinarian who ever did colic surgery in horses. I mean, routinely.
Yeah.
And they all died. I wish I could remember the person's name, because they were expected to die, and they were anyway. Eventually, though, they figured out there were certain things that could, this better than me.
Sure.
That some things they needed surgery, and if you fixed them, they'd live. But at first, everything died.
Yeah.
And then they kept going, and eventually they figured out how to differentiate or were better able to differentiate which horses needed surgery and which horses did not, and what the prognosis was going to be. And I'm still kicking myself because Jim told me that vet's name, and who's also passed, but I don't remember who that was. But you always find those kind of people in our profession, like you just said. We started off people who refuse to accept the present level of knowledge because they don't want to keep failing. They want to get
set the
better.
bar high.
They set the bar high. Yeah. Yeah.
There's one other thing I would add to the curriculum for students, and I think it would be mandatory that every vet student going through school at some point has to spend a 2-week period at Macy's behind the counter selling perfume at Christmas time to men who don't have a clue about what's going on.
Oh, well,
and
that's funny.
you'll learn how to communicate to people abstract concepts that don't mean anything to the guy. He's got a girlfriend and a wife. He's trying to keep them both happy. And you have to sort out away from that, stop passing judgment on the person, look at the animal and say, how can I make this animal better in spite of the person? And it's the person that's so important. And I think that seems to be the most lacking thing, not just in veterinary medicine, but that whole generation.
Yeah,
and I don't want to sound old. I don't want to sound like,
but some of this at Lincoln Memorial, the students have classes in dealing with clients. It's part of the curriculum. And I did not get that. I probably wouldn't have gone anyway. I was not really a good student, but and it was amazing because I remember I was there teaching some horse eye stuff, and the students had to leave. Some of the students had to leave and go for lab, and they knew that they were going to it, and they had actually had acting students on campus, from the theater school or whatever, and they would come in to pretend. And so that student was going to get a client today who was going to swear at them. And they knew that in advance. I mean, I don't know how bad, but the outraged client, unhinged client, which everybody gets once in a while, I suppose.
Certainly have.
It could happen anyway, and so some of the kids do get that kind of stuff, but I never did. I just sort of figured it out on my own as best
because you were the expert, and when you're the expert.
On this day, seriously, this morning, I opened up the phone and was looking and I got a message from a funeral home that I had written. A friend had passed, and I'd written saying a few things about my relationship with this person. This guy was named Ray Russo, who was a veterinarian, and when I graduated from vet school, I went to work for Ray for a year in Massachusetts. A small animal. And Ray was the best veterinarian I ever met at dealing with people. And yes, he had bad experiences too. He had I think, Geoff, every bad experience that could happen to a veterinarian happened in Ray's career. And he practiced until he was in his late 80s, maybe early 90s. And bad things, his hospital burned down on Christmas. When they were boarding dogs, that was one part of his, but he had all these good things. He was so respected in the community that they made him part of the hospital board, the human hospital, and he was extremely well liked. He was but he was a master of public relations. So, but what he would do, and I watched him do this, is where I learned this stuff. So I didn't learn it in school, but I learned it from Ray, and I give him all the credit. Client would come in, close the door. Ray had a bad hip, so he'd sit down. I think the clients liked that. And he'd look at the dog, he'd look at their eyes, and he'd get out the ophthalmoscope and look at their eyes.
Yeah.
And then he'd do, he'd cut their toenails and then maybe do their anal glands or whatever. But just but talk to he just talked to people. That's what they wanted to talk to. Yep. But and one day though, Geoff, Ray says, "Dennis, come here. Something wrong with the ophthalmoscope." Oh, okay. So I go in and look at it. He's got the light turned around, aimed into his own eye, which I have done that myself. So later in my career, but it's like, the guy was just fantastic. So, if the students are going to be successful as veterinarians, they need to be mentored as to how to deal with people, but also their career and their professional stuff, which that's kind of easy, but the people's Geoff, I will never forget ever the look on a client's face when I was a first year graduate at Ray Russo's practice in Kingston, Massachusetts. And he had a white German Shepherd with pannus. It's a German Shepherd issue. It's usually controllable, but not cured. And I'll never forget that client's ugly stare when I kind of blurted out, oh, I don't think we can cure your dog, but blah, blah, blah. I learned,
Yeah.
we'll make this dog better, but we won't cure him.
Right.
And that guy just thought I was the dumbest SOB ever.
Yeah.
And it's like, see, I wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah.
I should, and I use that example a lot, whether I'm talking to horse vets or small animal vets, whatever. I said, you got to be prepared. Part of your job is educating the people as to what to expect. Because they have expectations and so do you.
Yes.
And if, in horse, I spend whole lectures on that now, talking about what are you going to do if your initial therapy for this ulcer or this uveitis, what are you going to do if this doesn't work? What's plan B or plan C?
Yeah, I know.
And it's like, they're not prepared for that.
Right.
Everybody specializes. Every general practitioner is a specialist in something because they have no choice to be. How about this? They like eyes or they don't. They like skin. They like teeth. They like GI problems. Then you just specialized.
Yep.
You're not an internist, whatever, but you like this, and the clients will get to know who's good at what and who's not. And unfortunately, many of my colleagues won't look at horses; they're just too busy. Yeah. Well, somebody in the profession will.
Yeah.
And part of my job has always been to find those people and help them get better.
Yeah.
Because if my colleagues aren't going to look at the eyes of the horses, then I'm going to help somebody. I don't want no more blindness.
Right.
I'm done with it. Let's just stop there. Let's just start there. No more blindness if we can help it. Okay. Yeah. But at the same time, sometimes you run into the 10% of where there's a failure rate, a success rate's 90%, and you're the 10. Sometimes you hit that, everybody does. Well, okay, but that's not how you start off the day. They start off the day saying, I'm going to cure all of them today. Yeah. And it's a boy when you hit those runs, where everything gets better and the horses are happy and the owners are happy, and you go, and then what do? I'm going, oh man, how long is this going to last? Tomorrow it'll be over, but I'm going to feel good about it today.
Every night I go home and I'm in the hotel room someplace and I lay my head on the pillow. I reflect on the day and I look how successful I was. And I might have seen 4 or 5 clients and none of them will know all the successes I had that day. They just know the success I had with their horse.
That's a good way to think. Yeah.
And so I strive for every stop I make to make it more than they expected, to make it an event that they will lay their head on the pillow and say, wow, I had a great time. Not only did Dr. Tucker show up on time, do his job, but he gave me more than I was expecting. And there's a book I absolutely love. I don't see it on the shelf, but it's called Solve for Happy. And it's by an author named Mo Gadat, M-O, like Bo, but Mo. Gadat, an Egyptian who basically helped run Google. He ran all of Google in the continent of Africa, and he had all the money in the world to do anything he wanted. Ordered 2 antique Rolls Royces with 3 clicks of his mouse and had them delivered to his house. And he wasn't happy. And it turns out that he started to ask himself what makes him happy. And I think a lot of veterinarians need to understand this. They don't know what really drives people to making themselves happy. So this man went out on a search for it. And he said, he studied everything, including the papyrus, of the Egyptians and Dr. Phil. I mean, the whole gamut.
There you go.
And he says, he came up with a solution, and this is only the first quarter of the book. He comes up with a solution. He says, people have expectations, and if they are met or exceeded, they're happy. If they're not met, they're not happy. So a great example is you put everything in to make a picnic, and you're expecting great weather and everyone shows up, and you wake up that day and it's pouring rain. Your expectations haven't been met. Are you happy or are you unhappy? And of course, you're unhappy because you expected games and playing out in the park and everything. But it's your response to that that really makes a difference. Are you going to have an indoor picnic? Are you still going to have a good time? Do you make lemonade out of just lemons? But the book continues on. His best friend was his son. And his son ended up going to Boston University or whatever and was there getting a degree. He comes back to Egypt it was Easter vacation, so school spring break. He comes back and he decides that he's got a pain in his belly. It's appendicitis, the number one surgery apparently ever done in the world. And he goes in for an appendectomy and the surgeon slips with his knife, cuts his aorta and bleeds out and he's dead.
Oh my.
Now, how do you solve for happy?
Yeah.
And as you read his book, and actually I listened to an audio, he actually reads his book and he's in tears as he speaks about the death of his son. Now, how do you go on? And we as veterinarians have those moments where you work so hard and you are a good person at your core level, whether you're outgoing or an introvert, you know, between you and your God or whatever it is, that you are trying to do the best you can, and then you have this failure. You get that 10%, that 1% that should never have happened, or you made a mistake and something happened. Mm-hmm. How do you handle that? And so many veterinarians will turn to, liquor or drugs or suicide.
Yeah,
that's where we need the strong mentors to say, you're only human. You're going to make mistakes, and they should know that before they graduate from vet school, that this is the practice of veterinary medicine, that you are going to mess up and don't you dare do it again. Work harder, set the bar higher and work harder for it. But I find that a lot of veterinarians nowadays of a generation, and this is important because no generation is actually correct in their way of thinking. But every generation has their thing. And their thing right now is to have this balance in life where they're enjoying their family. They're not committed 100% to, they're passionate about veterinary medicine, but they have a cutoff point. And to be 100%, to gain that high bar of expectations requires more of a commitment. And everyone thinks that that's taking away the commitment from the family.
I talk about, I agree with you 100%. Okay. I guess I articulate it a little bit different in that for myself, veterinary medicine is how I lived my life. It was not my life.
Yes.
And what these people, I think they should kind of accept the profession as how you're living your life with your family. I mean, it's more than just words. I think that's a problem for some of these people. If they're not going to be successful in the profession unless they live it. It's a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. It's a good lifestyle. If you're going to put in all this energy in to get this degree and spend thousands of dollars to get this degree, you better figure out how you're going to live your life. This balance is garbage. I mean, in my opinion, I mean, I can't. This is how I live my life, but yet I didn't do, I've been successful at a level that most people don't need to be, I suppose, but maybe I'm wrong about that. I mean, it's like, it doesn't matter what other people think. It's how you feel.
Hey, you skipped down your path. Your path took you to become a professor now emeritus at University of Florida, world recognition. That's the path you took. But you could not have gone down that path if you decided, well, no, I need to spend weekends doing this, or, I needed to play in nightclubs at night or whatever.
Yeah. And
it was the choice.
And different people can do it in different ways. I mean, I just think that's part of the problem with the depression and suicides in some people is they don't really understand what they've got themselves into, and the university sure as hell don't know what it is, because and I'm not so sure I know why, but it's like maybe they're not being honest, but it's like this is how I lived my life.
Yep. Me too.
And I'm good with that. You know,
And so is my wife. And
have
so
I
is
had
my
a
son.
bad day? Yeah, absolutely. You know, if things gone wrong, absolutely. But I've been able to self-correct because of the experiences I have in this profession. And it's a really good way to live your life. But it doesn't have to become your life. You know, you do have to have a family. I worry about some of the younger kids. You know, they haven't. I'll say to them, I'll say, "Can I ask you a personal question?" You know, yeah. I said, "Are you having a personal life?" And they'll go, "I'm trying to." They'll say, "I'm trying to." Well, and I say, then get. You know, if they say not, then get one. Get a personal life.
Yeah.
Just decide, you know, and well, okay, you only meet veterinarians. Fine. You know, somehow you have to, and it's not easy. This isn't easy stuff.
So let me throw out this word balance. Personally, and I've stated this before, it's on record. I hate the word. There's nothing balanced in the world.
Right.
Stand in front of the mirror naked and tell me you have symmetry. You know, tell me that everything is perfect. So you're kind of cutting in and out. So tell your internet to behave.
Oh, I've been having a lot of trouble with it. I just saw a little thing that flashed up there that said it was unstable. So sorry.
It's all right.
Windstream can't figure it out. I've got a new modem, and I've had them out here 3 times, and so I apologize. But is it better now? I hope.
Yeah, it comes and goes. But
oh, I'm sorry. Honestly, I hate hearing that. But
maybe somebody's using streaming a video or something. I don't know.
Yeah, across the street.
Yeah. So the word balance, I don't like it because balance, everyone looks at this scale, right? And they want to get it balanced. So they have equal amount of times. But balance doesn't mean equal. Balance to me means corrections. So if you find yourself going, working too hard, correct it. And you correct it. It can take 5 minutes with your spouse by just having a great conversation with them. It could be a 30-minute television program which just makes you belly laugh just to get your mind out of all the problems in the world. And it could be going out one more time and finding a horse that solidifies your confidence in what you're doing. It doesn't matter. The balance to me is just a course correction. And if we start course correcting a little bit more, I think the students are getting a misunderstanding of what this work-life balance is. It's, as you say, it's a lifestyle, and the lifestyle requires you to stop and turn to your spouse or to your friend and say, "I love you. I appreciate you. I'm aware of what you're doing. But right now I've got my 3rd colic of the day, and I'm heading out the door, and I'm going to help that family because that's my mission. That's my passion in life. And when I come back, I swear to God, I'm going to sleep 10 minutes with you and say, everything's all right." That's it. Or have a beer or whatever it is.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
So let me tell you.
I'm not so sure where you learned that, but
mentors and life experience.
So some of the messages out there, I have a friend in one of the states, I won't say where, down here, down in the South, and he is one of the happiest veterinarians ever, but he's also a people person, and it's nothing derogatory about being happy. But anyway, when an unhappy veterinarian is having problems, the state association will send those vets, if they agree, to this person, and he'll counsel them or mentor them or whatever. And he's like the perfect, he's a general practitioner. He's the perfect person for this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And we need more of that. People to volunteer. I don't think he gets paid for it. I think he's got a big heart, and it's part of his religious belief to help other people, I guess. I don't think he's not promoting religion to these people. He's just he's talking to them probably.
Communication is all we got as humans.
Yeah. And I mean, he's a wonderful person, for that kind of thing. And I don't know about you, but I've had it two veterinarians I was very close to that I hadn't seen them in a long time. And then they came and they showed up. And I had a good time with them. And then they went home, and 2 or 3 weeks later, they committed suicide. They came to say goodbye.
Oh my God.
And Geoff, I missed it. I missed it. And I mean, there was nothing depressing about the conversations I had with these people. You know, I mean, it was just, they seemed normal. I was glad to see them. They seemed glad to see me, but they came to say goodbye. And
how can someone spend some time with you and want to end their lives? You are,
I don't know.
You're uplifting, you're funny, you care, you relate, you communicate so well. So don't hold this against you.
No, but
they had deeper issues.
Well, of course they did, and it's just the worst thing ever. But I still think
worse for you too.
Yeah. But it's a whole different level of being worse. I mean, their families obviously take it on a little harder. But I still, to this day, I think about that almost daily. These three people, and I don't know if you ever caught my Milne lecture in 2010 for AAEP.
Yeah,
it's still out there. I'll send you a copy. But at the end, I mean, for those people who don't know what the Milne lecture is, the AAEP gives a.
It is the biggest deal on the planet for veterinarians. If you're invited,
and I was really honored. Yeah.
What is it? 2 hours?
I told 2.5. Yeah. And
yeah.
I told them I would give the lecture as long as I got to talk about my family at the end.
Wow.
So, no problem. So I gave the lecture, you know, it was really state of the art equipment and everything, blah, blah, blah. And it wore me out. Anyway, I got to the end, talked about my family, my mom and dad, so forth. And but I made sure those people's names that I had these memories of were in that lecture. And the people that are alive too. But I mean, it's like I had no choice. I had to mention their names.
Sure.
Now, and I didn't tell the AAP people why their names were there, except they were close friends. Yeah. Because as long as I am alive, I was going to talk about these people because they meant so much to me, and other people too. Also, Geoff, it's really funny to me. I also got the British Equine BEVA Veterinary Association Major General Frederick Smith Award. I may be the only veterinarian that got horse vet that got both of those, which is, it's really, you know, the AAP has this huge, wonderful horse trophy. It weighs like 40 pounds. And that's what you get as an award. But the BEVA, they have a little coin. It's right over here somewhere at the bar. But I just love that fact. And I can't believe that I got either of those awards, you know.
Why can't you?
Just because
be humble.
Because like I'm the shyest person ever. Like, because they didn't, you know, these people have this respect, which I think I love, but they weren't there when I was screwing up.
Yeah.
They didn't see the progression.
But they're there because you screwed up and
that's
persevered anyway. That's what makes you a good vet.
I didn't want to fail.
And when you did fail, and there are many minor failures that aren't even worth mentioning, but there are daily failures that occur.
Well, yeah, we all do.
And you own them, you apologize for them with your heart. I try to tell people, look, if you screw up, say, I am sorry, but don't make it just lip service. Come from your heart. Look, I'm not here to hurt you or your horse, but if it happened, it happened. And sometimes you luck out. Sometimes instead of giving Banamine in the middle of the night for the colic case, you give Janison. It looked the same. It's from the same color bottle. You couldn't tell. The horse got better anyway. Don't tell anybody about those. No. Right? But how about the time you euthanize a horse and everyone's crying and the horse is dead and they're going to have the guy come in the morning, pick it up. And they go out there, the horse has gotten up and walked off into the woods. And I'll never forget, the vet told me it was going to happen to me. I said, no way, I'm too good a vet for that to ever happen. It won't happen. And it happened. And you own it. You go out there, you find the horse in the middle of the woods, and you do it again. You don't sit there and say, my world is ending. I've got to end my life. I've got to start drinking. You don't. You stand up to it because it makes you whole.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. I'm sorry.
I mentioned my good friend, my mentor in Massachusetts, Dr. Russo. I mean, he had almost with small animal had the same sort of thing. Dog gets euthanized, put it in the car.
Yeah.
It wakes up on the way home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Clients come back, they're furious and making a big scene. And like, if you do something long enough, often enough, and long enough,
yep,
you're going to see stuff that aren't in the books.
That's what Dr. Nichols said to me out of Skinny Alice. He warned me before he died that was going to happen, and we're going to warn our students.
Yep.
What happened to you?
Yeah, and then the other one I learned from, I can't remember the veterinary's name is from Indiana, and older than me, and I think I told you this the other day that he just said, listen, Dr. Brooks, if you don't want to see surgical complications, then stop doing surgery. And he's really right, I mean, because I was calling him up to say that a dog surgery hadn't gone well, and he said, well, then that's okay. It happens. It happens.
Yeah, but again,
make me feel better.
Talk about this balance. Okay.
Yeah.
You have one thing that goes wrong and you have 1,000 things that went right. Well, that's not balanced. Yet we give it so much energy to the things that fail.
Yeah.
I mean, every day you wake up.
I think it's a character flaw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
but it served me well.
No, don't get me wrong. We don't dismiss it. We don't say, well, that's too bad. No, we focus on it. We say, what did we do wrong? And we're never going to have that happen again, because we only want wins in our win column. We don't want any losses. And W's
are good.
But we don't knock ourselves up for having that losses. I mean, look at whether you like Tom Brady or not, you know, and if you're listening to this, you don't even know who Tom Brady is. He's the most winning quarterback in all of football history, American football history. And yet he makes mistakes. He makes mistakes all the time, yet he perfects on them. He builds on them. And if you aren't growing, my wife tells me this all the time. If you're not growing, you're dying. Just that simple. And I don't refuse. I refuse to die. I want to keep learning, just like you. If I can't learn something every day,
I want to learn something every day.
Yeah, I don't care if it's it could be.
I mean, unfortunately, a person seems to learn more or faster from bad things. So there's some days, Geoff, that I'm just going to learn things from good experiences today. I'm kind of worn out from the emotions of March 30th.
It's that logarithmic thing, right?
Yeah.
So you're doing more and more, and your successes just keep going up. So one more success doesn't really put you up any higher on the notch of confidence, but that one loss notches you right down, and it's inappropriate.
It sure does.
I got some questions.
Sure.
I asked a lot of people last week. I said, I'm going to be interviewing this guru of horse eyes, this professor emeritus.
Yeah.
What do you want to know? And you know what they all said?
Oh, God, what?
They said, if something's wrong with the eye, I call the veterinarian. They don't mess around with the eye. They don't mess around. There's something about the eye that, my horse has a cut, he's got colic, I'll just give him some of this stuff and we'll see if it gets better before I call the vet. And boom, call somebody. And,
that's good.
Yeah. I'll never forget in 1974, I'm working with horses, or 75. And because I took 5 years off and worked with thoroughbreds before I went back to undergrad and finished. But they said, this horse has an eye problem. He says, go up to the other barn and get that eye ointment, come down, put it in. And you know the rest of the story, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So I'm putting the steroid ointment in a corneal ulcer, and it goes south pretty quick. And I don't know. And so they bring in this eye doctor, specialist. If I is Dr. Kovitz, I think.
Oh yeah, Dave
Yeah,
Kovitz. Yeah,
from the
yeah.
70s.
Yeah. He's unfortunately gone now, but
Yeah.
he's really a good person. Good ophthalmologist.
He came
Very
in,
good.
and the veterinarian who's helping me was my original mentor, Dr. Steiner, John Steiner from Mahopac, New York. And they put in this subpalpebral tubing that went all the way up and down to the withers. And I learned one thing from that. The horse doesn't like stuff stuck in his eye. And if you're heading for the withers, he knows it's coming in the eye. And
They're not stupid.
Try to kill me.
They're not stupid. But yeah, some days those are real helpful. That's funny that you told it. Yeah, Dave got lymphoma. Passed a few years ago. He was older than me. He was like the
Yep.
There's the old timers, and then there were Dave's generation, and then me. I'm after, and now we're down into here. Now we're way down. Yeah, I don't even know the new kids.
It was one of the reasons I decided to get into vet school. And I said to Dr. Steiner, I said, I can't have this. I can't be running up and grabbing a tube of ointment, not knowing what I'm doing. I need to know. And he says, well, why don't you go to vet school? It's not going to cost you any money. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Back then it was like $600 a year or something like that. But anyway,
there you go.
So that's what compelled me to go on to vet school. And the other reason, of course, was what is the neurology behind neutral grooming, where the horse starts scratching the withers and the horse goes, the lips going up in the air. What's behind that? Well, I never learned that one because vet school still doesn't know what that is. It just feels good.
They're working on it. Feels good, yeah.
But that case, that and a lymphangitis case. So I was driven, plus my wife, I met her at the barn, and she had this big boot and kicked me square in the butt and said I was more than a poop shoveler. And I said, huh? And so she's the reason why I ended up going back into undergraduate and then going on to vet school. And I wanted to work with eyes so much because of that case. And I struggled. I was having a hard time understanding, inside the eye, it's an immune privileged site, it's on and on, whatever. So I turned to my classmate, the gal who was a year ahead of me. I said, Ann, I need help. And Ann Dwyer gave me all of her notes for the ophthalmology class and got me through ophthalmology. Thank you, Ann Dwyer. If you ever hear this, it's out there. But eyes really became easy for me. You stain them if they're, you put this ointment in, put that ointment in. If it's worse, send it to Bill Rabune. He'll take care of it. That was it.
Yeah. Yep.
What do you tell horse owners give them, because they're listening to this and they want to know. That's like the one question. What do we have to know? What should be in our first aid kit? What can we do when we can't get a vet? And that's getting harder to find veterinarians out in the rural areas. What can we do that's going to be safe, effective, and at least from that point on, we can move over to the vet. And the other question I got was, now that my horse is blind, what do I do? How do I help it? What happens? And this is a question I just got 2 days ago, and they're listening to this podcast, so I better ask it. What happens when the blind horse's pasture mate dies and now it's alone? Do you have any advice for some of those guys? Like, those are actually really good questions. I'm not so sure anybody has a good answer. Let's just take the blind horse. If a horse loses its sight slowly, if they have time to adapt, they can scare you. There's like a subculture of horse owners that continue to ride these horses. They don't give up. Yeah.
The horses actually seem to like the exercise, and some of the horses still want to be the leader, and some horses are happy to follow.
Yeah.
And this group of people who don't give up on the horse's blindness or don't accept it has gotten bigger throughout my career. I'm always impressed by it. I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure people should be riding horses that can see, let alone one they can't see. But maybe it's
cars are good.
Yeah, there you go. And I think you just do simple things. Horses are simple creatures. I think they just want to eat and not be ridden. That's for sure. But they just want to eat and be safe, and where nothing scares them. So you provide that kind of an environment. And if maybe that's the horse is going to be stalled most of the time, you have to put them in a round paddock instead of a square one, and help them adapt, walk them through it. Most of them will adapt pretty well. I mean, if they have enough time. If they lose their sight suddenly, those are the ones that have trouble. And that can be if they're young horses or old horses. Let me just throw in a commercial, I guess, also, because it's one of my things I spent 40 years trying to figure out, and I think maybe I have figured it out. The horse that is subjected to the horse that goes suddenly blind, usually due to trauma. Getting in a trailer, hits her head on the trailer, stocks, barn door, hits her head, or just falls over and hits their head, and they lose their sight suddenly. That is most of those cases. There's been no therapy for it, and what happens is, when you get a blow to the visual cortex, which is in back of the ears, so you see me banging my top of my head, it's the back of the head. And what happens is in the visual parts of the brain, in those situations, blunt trauma, there's hemorrhage in the brain. Okay. And blood contains hemoglobin. That's why it gives it the red color. And the hemoglobin contains iron. And iron is what causes the blindness. Now we know this. Only in the last year and a half do we know this. And so when we were just using systemic steroids or systemic DMSO or something to treat these horses, well, that wasn't addressing the iron, and so they never saw again. And it was really, they're just sad, because they'd just be beautiful horses, and they're suddenly blind, and they're panicked, and the owners are panicked, and it's just hopeless, and they get euthanized most of the time, and rightfully so. But there's now therapy for this, and there's even a dose for the horse.
Oh my gosh!
The drug, it's a drug called Desferol. Everybody's going to forget this, okay?
Yeah.
But it's an iron chelator.
Sure.
And we have a dose for the horse.
That's amazing.
And the very first one I got to treat, and I'd go out and talk to veterinarians, just like now, I'd say, listen, you see one of these cases, you get a hold of me, because now there's a treatment.
Yeah.
And the first one was 8 days after the injury, and it got its sight back.
Good grief.
So it's an iron chelator. And my mother died of hemorrhagic stroke. Both of her parents did, her grandparents did. I mean, I'm at risk, okay? So hemorrhagic stroke means that you get a blood vessel leaking into your brain, and the iron is what kills your brain.
Oh my God.
If you, in animal, now these drugs are being tested in humans right now, and they're working. There's 75,000 people in the United States every year either are killed or are severely debilitated for hemorrhagic stroke. But and now the drugs are just out there in animal models of hemorrhagic stroke. This drug eliminates all neurologic deficits.
Wow.
So now we have a treatment. So it's called Desperate now. So your veterinarian may not, if God forbid you're in this situation, your veterinarian needs to get a hold of me.
Right.
And we'll go through it and we'll explain it. So there's a hope for that. So anyway, that's just now back to the blind horses, and that's a real big deal. It's one thing is your horse blind, or is the horse blind and painful? If the eye is painful, then people, you should think about having the eyes removed. If they're just blind, maybe then you just work with behavior and helping them adapt. Maybe they need another pasture pet. Maybe they need another follower. I saw 2 of these in the last month, where, a regular sized horse and a mini.
Yeah.
And God, if you took that mini away from this adult who was blind, ultimate, the mini didn't care, but the other horse really cared.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I don't think I have I'm happy to talk to anybody in that situation. I can probably be a little bit more specific, but it's just going to be common sense things. But is the horse blind and painful, or just blind?
Yeah.
And that's a big deal because you don't want your horse living to be painful. Eye pain, horses are really good at covering up eye pain, meaning they'll be painful and you don't know it.
Wow.
And what I ask people to do is you get to know the position of the eyelashes on the upper eyelids of your horses. If it's drooping, they're painful.
Gotcha.
When they feel better, comes back. If they know you're going to put eye drops in, boom, they come down. So you got to, Geoff, one of my clients was a few years ago was trying to figure out, was her horse getting better with its eye problem? And it was painful. But was it because she couldn't tell? So every time she got near the horse would start to squint because that's what she was training the horse, unfortunately, not on purpose, training the horse to squint whenever she came. So she could, anyway, so what she would do, the horse was kept outside, or at least had an outside area. She'd get up, she had to drive to the farm and she'd get like a quarter of a mile away. So the horse, and get out of her car, stop the car with binoculars. And try to see if the horse had his eye open that day or if he was squinting, because I just thought that was great. That was the best.
The pain wasn't in the eye.
The pain wasn't in the eye. But I mean, that's one of the things I probably can't really, those are really wonderful questions. I'm not smart enough to answer them, but I think it's just common sense stuff. If they had a friend, you give them a friend. Go ahead.
How about a bell or noise?
Sometimes that helps. Sometimes that helps. Or even if it's a windy area, you put bells on the fences. So they know where they'll actually learn pretty quick.
Yeah.
If there's old farm equipment out in the pasture, get it out of there. I mean,
make it safe. It safe.
But circular things seem to help the horses adapt. And make their lives normal again.
Yeah. Huh.
If you've been out feeding them twice a day, continue to feed them twice a day. If you walk them intermittently once or twice a week, walk them again. Get them used to you, because they can adapt. I think they adapt better than we do to blindness.
I did a pre-purchase on a horse that did pole bending. I don't know if you know pole bending, but they go in and out of poles.
Yeah.
And they were buying it. And the first thing I always do is check the eyes. I said, this horse is blind, right? No way. No, it's blind. I said, I'll tell you what. And they made me do the complete pre-purchase. I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. You're going to come out here at night and we're going to put a bale of hay right where it's not expecting it. You just walk it. And that horse tripped head over
the horses are really good at hiding their infirmaries, their sicknesses or whatever. I mean, that's not unusual to see. I learned pretty quickly in my career that not to argue with an owner who thinks their horse can see when I know they can't. It's stupid. Why argue? You believe it? That's fine. That's good. The horse is going to do whatever. I mean, and then I had a few years ago. It was a jumping pony. At the international level, being ridden by a 12-year-old girl. Yeah. God.
Yeah.
And it was totally blind. Winning everything.
A fearless girl.
And then it had cataracts, and so they want the owners, good people. They wanted to have cataract surgery, and I was really afraid, thinking that I'm going to give this pony sight. The surgery will work. The pony will see what's going on and say, I'm not going to do this anymore. Luckily, the first eye went fine and the horse did fine. The second eye, we had some little problems and it did fine. The ponies went. This is a few years ago. So hopefully the 12-year-old girl is now riding a different horse and is older. But I mean, it's amazing to me.
I think you've been focusing on the eyes too much and you haven't looked in the brain for that radar.
Oh, yeah, they have radar. Actually, one of the best, I'm sorry, I'm going to bore you with this, but I can't help it. It's one of the best experiences of my whole career. And that was a foal that had cataracts and it was born with cataracts. So they brought it to me to have cataract surgery. And I don't know if you've ever seen a blind foal, they stay like a magnet with the mare. I mean, they do anyway, right, to a certain age, but I mean, they really don't get away from the mare. They know where the mare is all the time, and they can nurse and blah, 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 and do all the things and still kick up their heels, but they're close. It's like a magnet. So due to cataract surgery. And so the preliminary work went fine and the surgery went great, both eyes. And the mare had been separated during the anesthesia, so the mare was in the barn in its stall. And me and some students, and they weren't equine students, just veterinary students, we're trying to get the baby after it's awake and it can see. And we're trying, it's enjoying life. It's never seen anything, it's light and dark, but it's never seen trees or sky or anything. So it's taking its time, and we're taking its time, and then but it's walking. And finally we get about 10 feet away from the mare, a big gray mare, and the baby just stops. It's not going anywhere.
Okay.
And then one of the students, in their brilliance, the students goes, "She's never seen her mother." And immediately I start crying, and the students are crying. We're all crying. "Never seen her mother." Well, yes. And then she figures out pretty quick, the baby, that this big gray thing is where you get food, And so, I think she was exactly right. She's never seen her mother. So that was the best thing ever. Like what that experience is priceless.
Yeah,
that's why I do this. Like she'd never seen her mother. And you can always tell the babies after cataract surgery after the surgery's over, usually because I do the surgery, I have to leave town or whatever, and so somebody else is taking care of the baby, and I'll say, "How's the baby doing after surgery?" And they'll say, "We can't catch it to give it its medicine." Whereas before surgery, it was real easy to catch, put the eye drop, because now it's running all around, and that's what you want to hear. You say, "You can't catch it? Perfect. It's doing fine."
Guess they don't need those meds.
Don't need those meds much anymore. Yeah, the thing about eye problems is, try, if your horse has an eye problem, try to get, things can go real bad real quick, and so and they can also get better real quick. It's just the correct medicine is important. You probably, if all you've got if your horse has got an eye problem, it's pretty safe to use antibiotics only. Just as put 1 or 2 squirts or a quarter of an inch of salve ointment. But just watch out with steroids. Anything with dexamethasone or hydrocortisone, you probably should wait, get a veterinary care. But here's the other thing too. If a horse has an eye problem and you call in a vet and you want to know if you're getting your money's worth, or the vet's going to love this, Geoff. If you want to know you're getting your money's worth, the veterinarian should stain your horse's eye with fluorescein dye. Yeah. That's part of the basic examination. Yep. Because the people that are listening or just showed up now, horses get three eye diseases. Yep. Just 3. Yep. Corneal ulcers, uveitis, and everything else.
Just to be clear, corneal ulcer is an abrasion to that very outside clear edge. Lets the water in, it gets cloudy, they start to squint, the pupil gets constricted. So you're out there at night and one eye is wide open pupil, the other one's squirting down, and tears are flowing down your eyes.
Not bad for a dentist.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad.
And so, thank you. And the treatments are different. Yeah, the treatments are different. But I mean,
what do you think about just one dose of atropine, no matter what?
I'm good with that.
Okay. I tell
some Banamine.
And some IV or on the eye.
Give it orally.
Orally.
Okay. It tastes terrible, but I mean, if you don't want to give them, if it's an average, if you're not sure if it's an average sized adult horse, give them 6 or 7 cc's orally.
Yeah.
They'll hate it. It tastes terrible. How do I know this?
Because
well, evidently, some veterinarians who got intoxicated say that Banamine is a very good cure for a hangover. I wouldn't know, but I'm told that. And it tastes terrible. So if you can squirt it on the horse's grain and they'll eat it, great. My horses won't. You put it on the grain. We have to just squirt it in their mouth. They hate it. Or you can put it in some pancake syrup, some strawberry syrup, and put a little bit more in than that. But no, that's actually safe. Banamine's safe. An antibiotic is safe. But pay the emergency fee if they're going to have one. Don't let the veterinarian get away with not looking.
Yeah.
Because 24 hours can make a big deal. They should know this, or get a new vet. I shouldn't say things like this, but eyes are, a little, what's this? If your horse is colic and you need help, if your horse is squinting, it needs help.
Yep.
Your vets will come.
Never
They'll
forget.
come.
Never forget. We did a corneal stain. It wasn't me. It was my associate. She put it on there. It's positive. She put the antibiotic, triple antibiotic, some atropine, and went on her way. The next morning, like at 6:30 in the morning, I'm getting a phone call screaming, my God, get out here. The eye is twice its normal size. And I'm like, okay. I get out there. The eyeball was twice its normal size. It was in such agony.
Oh, God.
In less than 24 hours, and Bill Rebune took that case. He cultured some sort of organism. He said he's never seen inside an eyeball, and the horse lost his eye.
Yeah. Horse does not tolerate. Horse eye does not tolerate infection inside the eye. But I'll give you another example of this. So, Geoff is one of the best horse vets I know. Had a mare and foal at her house, her own horse. They weaned the foal at noon on a Saturday, I think. But this is her own horse, one of the best horse vets I know. Weaned the horse at noon. Horse, the baby gets upset, of course, runs around and falls down and it injures its cornea, injures its eye, gets a little ulcer, a really superficial ulcer. I mean, the vet, got the horse, looked at it, did the stain, saw the ulcer. 5 hours later, on her own farm, she said if she wouldn't have seen it, she wouldn't have believed it. The eye is about to rupture. I mean, the ulcer was superficial. It got deep and deep. It's about to rupture, and things. And I think I got called in at that point, and things ended up working out. But it's okay. But it's like things can progress really quickly. The horse eye heals very well. It does not heal quickly.
Interesting.
I wish it healed quicker. But I mean, the eye diseases compared to other species that veterinarians work on, the horse eye has some devastating corneal and eye diseases compared to other species. I mean, it's just amazing how bad things can be quickly, but they can heal. I spent 40 years trying to figure out how the horse eye heals so I can help it heal and not get in the way.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot. I don't have all the answers by any means, but I mean, we surely know how to start therapy for many of these eye problems. We can anticipate what's going to happen, and most everything can get better. But
if given a chance.
Eye cancer, if your horse gets a squamous cell or something, squamous cell carcinoma, that don't wait. Get that to the vet when it's small.
Yes.
When we got a chance. I hate cancer. And it still sucks. Pardon me for swearing, but I mean, it just sucks. And if some horses seem to be predisposed, and some horse breeds seem to be predisposed. If you're nervous, go see your vet. Don't wait until it's twice the size or 3 times the size.
Exactly.
And because many of these things are curable, but not if you wait long. They're not. And anyway, but did that answer that? I think we started on a blindness question, and I ended up in cancer. So there you go.
I gave you 2 questions. One was blind, and the other one was, what does the horse owner do when they're a day or 2 away from a vet? They're out on a trail ride. They need to bring a first aid kit. They've got to ride the horse back.
Some triple antibiotic should be in your ointment or solution, but your ointment's usually better. Triple antibiotic is safe with just plain, no steroids, no H or no Dex, just plain. And I think even atropine is a reasonable thing to take, and some Banamine, which you probably have butyrbandamine anyway with you, I would hope.
I want to add one thing. Check the expiration date.
Well, and I'm bad with that, though. I have to admit that sometimes the older drugs will still work. And I won't tell you the anecdotes that go with that, because, but because one of my own horses, I have 3, he got a really bad 5 millimeter diameter ulcer, and it was horrible. And he wouldn't let me treat him, and he was the worst horse ever. And he didn't care at all that I was yelling at him. It didn't bother him one bit. And I had some 15-year-old ophthalmic medicine. 15 years old. I had the date on it. That's all I had. I put in 1 treatment. And he was better the next morning. So what's the miracle drug for a 15-year-old ophthalmic appointment? I'm not going to tell you which drug it was. I remember, but anyway. But everybody should carry some triple antibiotic.
All right.
And that's okay. It's safe. But don't get some help. Even if you're out on the trail, if you're on a trail ride or something, hopefully they got vets along the way. Somebody can stain. You want to be stained. Geoff, if a horse owner wants to do the best in that situation, get some fluorescein dye.
Yep.
Carry the paper.
Yep.
In your wallet.
In your wallet.
Yep. Or and learn. Have your veterinarian show you how to use it.
Yeah.
Because the therapy for an ulcer is different than the therapy for uveitis.
Yep.
And it's not. This isn't rocket science here. This is just basic stuff, and if the horse is getting painful or squinting, one of the things owners notice is they start to get mucus or something. It can mean, and usually people, Geoff, get real upset about the mucus, and it's like, it's just mucus. It's okay. Don't worry about it. But every once in a while, that horses will have a uveitis or will have something. That's what's causing the mucus, in production. But generally, a little bit of mucus is not an issue. The owners of the horses should start to watch the position of the eyelashes on the upper lid. If they're drooping compared to the other side, there's a problem. It may not be serious, but there's a problem.
I'm going to call it a Brooksism.
Brooksism.
There you go. Brooksism.
Yeah, If I'd known we were going to do that, I could have thrown some pictures up here and showed you. But if you want to do it again, we can show a few pictures of this stuff.
Well, if you want to send them to me, I'll put it in the show notes that I'm supposed to.
Oh, I can do that. We can do that. Yeah, that's easy.
So we've covered so many things. I mean, we got rid of the eye things. That's good. There's only 3 types of eye things.
Yeah.
Easy.
It's good. Thank God. Simple people.
I think our conversation about struggling veterinarians is important. I think you would know as well as anybody what it's like to be in a university and some of the pluses and minuses there. I think we both got hooked on horses somewhere, somehow. I think that
horses are amazing.
And
horses are amazing.
They are, and they have these humans attached, which make you a better person, I think.
I think so too.
And I think we've covered so much here. Struggles, wins, and losses. I think this has been a really good conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to talk about.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Well, sometimes
I gotta go look at a baby donkey now.
How old is the baby donkey?
It's 2 or 3 days old. It's normal.
Gosh.
I think. I hope.
Yeah.
I got to go to Texas on Thursday. It's Sunday today and do cataract surgery on a baby that's never seen. So I'm hoping. Everyone wish me well.
Yes.
I'm really good at it, but it is a horse and it is a baby. And if she starts to see, then she's going to not want to get her medicine put in her eyes. But
that's your goal.
Work on it. Yeah.
No more blindness.
No more blindness in horses if we can help it.
No more colic. No more laminitis. You did mention something the other day where you said this 90-10% thing. And I'd suggested that, is it possible that changes have occurred in the way we keep horses? That 10% is becoming more 20 or 30%. The odds of it happening are increasing because we're not getting something right, or something's changing.
Or we change something. I talk a lot about this to some of my colleagues, and there were new anti-parasite drugs that showed up for horses in the 80s and 90s, and some vets think it's them, that we changed the microbial flora of the horses by accident. And surely there are some eye diseases that were really common in the early 80s. And then some of these new anti-parasite drugs came out and those eye diseases disappeared.
Wow.
Guess what?
Like leptospirotype?
They're back. They're back. Wow. Like intestinal parasites and habronema and that kind of stuff. And those eye diseases are back. And also I was in Sweden in 1996. looking at these Swedish warm bloods for the horse vets I was talking to there. And I had never seen these eye diseases before. The Swedish vets didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it was. So this was 96. Guess what? They're here now. I'm not saying anything started in Sweden. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that whatever happened over there happened here. And there's a whole, they're called immune-mediated corneal diseases. There's 5 of them.
No.
And 5 of them that we know of. And years ago, when you and I were young vets, there was 1. Okay. And it's still around.
Is that leptospira?
The other, no, it's not leptospira. That's uveitis. Leptospira is, everybody's worried about it. It's overblown anymore. But there's other, I'm not downplaying it. It's still important, but it's overdiagnosed. And but these immune-mediated diseases, nobody knows where the hell they've come from. They weren't around back then. They weren't around 30 years ago. We would have known. They're not that hard to diagnose. We had the equipment. We know what they look like. Yep. It's international. It's in Europe. It's here. It's in South America. It's in Mexico. I mean, and so many of the horse vets don't know this. So many of us spent a lot of time in the last 4, 5, 6 years trying to get horse general practitioners aware of what these things look like. Most of them are curable, treatable and curable. One of them tends to recur, and the other one is a blinding disease that has no therapy, and we're worried.
I see a dozen different things that weren't in the textbooks in the 1980s.
Oh, yeah. Well,
drop fetlock.
Some of the things there, you
don't need anything but your eyes to see that.
Yeah. See that when these newer diseases I'm talking about, you don't really need, you need fluorescein strips.
And so
you need to take a camera. I mean, most horse vets, I recommend they photograph things. Or the owner, photograph your horse's eye. Learn how to do it. It's not hard. If you're an adult and you got a teenager around, have the teenager do it. They'll be able to take a picture better than you. They're not intimidated, so they'll get a good picture.
Do you use a flash, by the way?
Yeah, usually, but sometimes yes, sometimes no. I try both. Sometimes you have to. Everybody's seen the picture with a cell phone camera where you get a reflection back of yourself in that picture. You know, and if you take your cell phone and then you just take another cell phone or another dim light, and so you aim the cell phone straight on, you take the dim light and aim it from the side on the horse, you'll get rid of that artifact. You won't see the reflex, so it makes it easier. If somebody were to send me a picture like that, I'd tell them take another light and aim it from the side and get me a better picture.
Yeah.
I had a client, won't tell you where, but up north, and sent me a picture, asked me what was wrong with her horse's eyes. She left the fly mask on. So I had to write, I said, I can't see it. But she said, take another picture with a fly mask on. She was upset. And then and she did, and I knew exactly what it was.
Yeah.
I made the diagnosis over there, right over the email or text or whatever. So,
Well, I heard about CRISPR technology, splicing genes, and they're getting people who are missing the enzyme in their eye. They're blind in the morning, and in the afternoon they've got vision through some sort of genetic splicing.
Don't you faster, please? Yeah. I don't know much about that. So, but
it's coming along.
We are getting better with horses, their vision problems, and I think the future is even better. I'm aware of some new technologies that's coming that will be very useful in horses that have uveitis.
Oh, wow.
And some of these immune-mediated corneal problems.
Yeah, but immune-mediated disease has always just piqued my interest.
Well, everything's immune-mediated. We just don't know what the trigger is. What starts it, and then the immune system. I mean, we used to call it iatrogenic or idiopathic.
Yeah.
Well, now it's immune-mediated. It's immune. Everything's immune-mediated. So it's like, I've got horses on acupuncture. I've got them. I don't do that kind of stuff, but I know who the best people are. So if we think that's indicated, I'll send people to get whatever kind of therapy. I don't care. But horses with eye problems are. If one of the horse people watching, if they have a horse with a serious eye problem, it becomes your job for a while.
Yes.
I had one client that I never had enough guts to do this, but she actually calculated out how many times a week she was treating her horse with. Had a really serious eye problem. It got better though, yeah, thank God. But she was treating her horse about 400 times a week with 5 or 6 different kinds of medicines, 6 or 7 times a day.
Great question.
Yeah.
Or maybe not a question, but a statement. When you do have an eye problem, you cannot cut into the treatment. And if the treatment requires around the clock medications, and these people have a job to go to, they have to sleep, they have to go to work.
Yeah.
You've got to get a support staff.
I mean, you just do the best you can at the same time. But I mean, here's the scary part, which I find amazing. If you, me, them, anybody, if you put an eye medicine on a horse's cornea, it's going to be there 7 minutes. That's on a horse. Now that number is from horses. It's not from mice, and I'm or dogs or cats or human.
It's real.
Well, but the tear film is so huge in the horse, it just rinses it right off.
Yeah.
And 7 minutes. So when I, if I put medicine up there on a horse's cornea, I better hope it goes where I want it to real quick, because it's not going to be very long. So if your veterinarian asks you to treat a horse eye every hour, that's not enough.
Yeah.
It's just the best we can do.
Yeah.
If 3 times a day is the best you can do, then you do 3 times a day.
Yeah.
But
that's great advice.
7 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody can do 7 minutes. I mean, that's impossible.
Infusion. Yeah.
Well, yeah, they make infusion pumps and stuff, but they have their own issues. So anyway, but it's still like you just do the best you can. And it becomes a full-time job. It's classic. I'll make a diagnosis and I'll recommend therapy, and I'll say, "Do you want to treat it?" I'll say to the owners, "You want to treat this?" Say, "Oh yeah, we'll try." And they come back about 3 days later, and their eyes are dark. And, they say, "We'll pay you now." And because this is I just can't do it. And I've treated my own horse. I have 3 horses, and I've treated them with eye problems, two of the 3, and it's like, I don't like it either.
No,
but it'll work.
It will
for most of the things if you do treat them. And
how do you know it's working? I mean, besides the eye.
Well, if it's a painful eye problem, that's a good thing. If the pupil's easily dilated, that's another thing. That's a good sign usually. Sometimes if it's a corneal problem, it's going to have to turn red. The blood vessels have to grow into it.
Sure.
Well, that's about 1 millimeter a day.
Yeah.
So, and if it's out in the middle of the cornea, the horse cornea is 28 millimeters across. So if it's out in the middle, it's going to take 2 weeks for the blood vessels to get there.
Yeah.
I'm sympathetic to all of this. And this is what I've dealt with 40 years. How to get the owners to treat the horses, how to get the horses to let you treat them. It's a problem.
It's one of the times where I advocate treat the crap out of the horse. Here's your sugar treat. Here's your sugar treat. Don't worry about metabolic syndrome.
Bribery is a good thing, whatever it takes. And most, even, I don't know, some horses you just can't do. That's rarity. But
it is rare, but it does occur.
Some people have to twitch the horse every time they treat him, which is horrible. But if you do it twice a day, I guess it's better than none.
Yep.
And then some of the eye problems don't get better no matter how many times a day you treat them.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, there is a small percentage that don't get better. And we're trying hard.
I know you are.
We're still trying to, because I don't like failing, and it's not my own ego. I don't have much of an ego.
I know that.
But I don't want to fail. I want the horse to see.
That's not anything to do with ego. That's just class. It's internal character. And I think every veterinarian, like you say, has that at some point, and we hope they keep it for 40 years.
I think I'm a character, yeah.
Oh, yeah, aren't you?
Well, they're the horse owners here. I like to think I'm a pretty nice person, but you don't want to get to recognize my voice on the telephone. If you recognize my voice on the phone, your horse has got a serious eye problem.
Yeah.
I don't get easy stuff anymore. Actually, I do, but it's like nothing's easy.
No, that's good, because that means you're teaching a crew of veterinarians to take care of almost all of it. That's been your mission. That's been your mission. You've done it so successfully.
And
and you set up.
I'm proud of that.
You've got teachers all over that have you to thank. I was going to say blame, but
it depends on your point of view. I don't know. There's a few people that are fairly irritated with me, but not too many, and I don't blame them. I couldn't get them better. But it's like
don't sweat it.
Yeah. Just do your best you can.
Yep. Dennis, this
I'm going to go see a donkey.
Yeah, go see a donkey. I don't know what I'm doing.
Well, it's Sunday at 4:45. Donkeys. Anyway, take care, Geoff. Have a good week, everybody.
You too.
Have a good time. See ya.
Thanks. Bye.
Hey everyone, Doc T here. Thank you for listening to my content. Would you do me a huge favor? Would you please subscribe, comment, like, thumbs up, and give a star review? However it's presented to you, I want you to do that. There's two reasons. The first, of course, is to improve this product. This way I know what you like, what you don't like, what I can improve upon, what topics you want me to cover. But more importantly, it's also going to help others find me. And by doing that, you are now engaged in this mission of helping horses thrive in a human world. By you helping, we can reach others. And that I would be so grateful for. And remember, go to thehorsesadvocate.com for updates on this information. Thehorsesadvocate.com. And again, thank you so much for being here. Doc T out.